This car is in the 2% club. That's because this 2021 Toyota Corolla Hatchback comes with a manual transmission. Save the manuals. We've all heard this, but why should we save the manuals? Technically, there really aren't any good arguments to keep manuals around. Automatics shift faster, they're smoother, they have more gears, they get better fuel economy. But emotionally speaking, a manual, now that's where it's at. There's something much more engaging about driving a manual transmission though. You get to pick the shift points. You're much more in control and aware of your entire environment because you get to practice things like heel and toe and downshifting, and that's a lot of fun. Let's talk about the manual transmission. So it's actually pretty easy to drive. If you're new to the manual transmission, this car is a pretty good place to start, I think. The clutch is fairly light. The throws on the shifter are pretty easy to find the gate that you're going into. Transmission feels like quite solid and positive. There's no vagueness about it. It feels very crisp, I would say. The throws are a little bit on the long side. It's not a sport transmission. It's not a short throw transmission. The gears are pretty well spaced for city driving. They're definitely a little bit on the tall side. There's definitely an emphasis on fuel economy. If you're new to driving a manual transmission, downshifting can be one of those things that's just a little bit daunting, a little bit scary. So what you do is you press this IMT button before you start going, and what it does is when you come up to a corner, let's say you need to downshift to a lower gear, you want to match the engine revs, well, it does it for you. It automatically matches the engine revs with the transmission, so when you shift into gear and then you release the clutch, you don't get a jerky effect. Let's go check it out. The intelligent manual transmission, when I hit that button on the center console, it rev matches for me. So that means if I'm in a higher gear and I downshift, it's going to blip the throttle, it's going to rev up the engine to match the transmission speed. So right now, I'm in third gear. I'm doing about 45 miles an hour. I'm at 30, let's get to 3,500 RPM. I'm going to downshift in a second. Listen to the engine. So it did that for me. It rev matched perfectly to get me into the lower gear. I can do it myself, but it's a little bit more work. So if you're a beginner manual driver, this is a really fun and great feature to have. It's going to teach you basically how to rev match to some degree. You're gonna have to learn it on your own, but it's gonna show you what to do. All hatchbacks come with the 2-liter dynamic force engine. So this is not a turbo engine, unlike a lot of other manufacturers. This is naturally aspirated. And Toyota has designed this to be more efficient. It's a high compression engine, and it actually has an electric water pump, unlike a conventional belt-driven water pump. This has got Toyota's new fuel injection system. It's called D4S. Every cylinder has 2 injectors, one port and one direct. And as you're driving, this is basically optimized for efficiency. As you're driving around, it can turn off the port injector. And so you're gonna be able to get better fuel economy. And the benefit of having the port injector is that it cleans the back of the valve, so you're gonna get less carbon buildup. And over time, that should result in a more reliable engine. In this particular configuration, it makes 168 horsepower and 155 pound-feet of torque. No, it's not fast. So this is not a screamer, this is not a high output engine, it's not that powerful. And the power, the torque is made at 4,400 RPM, so it's fairly high up in the rev band. So what does that really mean? Well, if you're driving a car like this with the manual transmission, that means if you're driving on a road like this, I'm not driving that quickly, but if I speed up here a little bit, to keep the power in the power band, I've got to have the revs up, you know, above 4,000 RPM. So that means in a road like this, fairly tight road, I've got to keep it basically in second gear most of the time. You got to keep the engine on boil the whole time if you want to have the power when you need it. This is the XSE trim, and there's a couple differences between the XE trim, which is lower. This gets 18-inch wheels instead of 16-inch, and this also has blind spot monitors in the mirrors. Some of the other differences between the SE trim and the XSE, which this is, you get a 7-inch display in front of the driver instead of 4.2 inches. This also comes with leather trimmed seats, and the audio system is something they call Audio Plus. It's a 6-speaker system. It is, I'd say it's okay. It's probably suitable for most people. The upgraded JBL audio with navigation is $1,700. It sounds a lot better, but it's a lot more money. Some of the things that you might want to option are only available with the XSE package. So for example, the upgraded navigation system and JBL audio, you have to have the XSE package for that. The enhanced cargo space, you need the XSE package. And it does give you the ability to add on a black roof, which this one has, and also the adaptive headlights for about $415. They're very good. They help guide you around corners at night. They actually swivel. That you have to get the XSE package as well. The infotainment system is an 8-inch touchscreen display. It's pretty decent. It has physical buttons down the side, which I like. You can get to your audio fairly quickly, although when you're on the screen, sometimes it does take a few more touches to get to where you want to go. This is pretty much standard fare for Toyota right now. It's definitely an improvement over where they were a couple of years ago. For 2021, all Corollas get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You plug it in, connect it, little USB jack right there, Apple CarPlay. This Corolla hatchback with the XSE trim comes pretty close to the way I would personally option it. It starts at $23,400. This has the adaptive headlights for a little over $400, and the black roof, which I can take or leave, and a $1,000 destination fee. Total all in, this is $25,300. Overall, the interior is a pretty nice space, especially for the money. You get soft touch materials on the tops of the doors and on the top of the dash. You get a stitching running all the way across the dash, and it does have a leather steering wheel with soft touch buttons. The leather trim seats are pretty comfortable. They've got cloth in the middle, and they have side bolsters also with a lumbar support that you can adjust. It's power on the driver's side, not power on the passenger side. The fit and finish in here are actually pretty good. Everything, like I said, is high quality materials. It's pretty standard, typical Toyota quality. It's not the most luxurious thing you can possibly imagine, but again, at the price point, it's very competitive. I've done some more videos on this Corolla. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about the interior, definitely go check some of those out. Welcome to the back seat. I'm 5'9" and I can sit behind myself really comfortably in terms of headspace. I've got maybe an additional 2 to 3 inches. If you're trying to fit a baby seat back here, gonna be kind of difficult. Got a couple inches of knee room behind myself, but let me move the seat back a little bit. Ugh. The driver is 6 foot or 6'1". It is kind of a whole different situation right now. All Toyotas now come with something called Toyota Safety Sense, and this is version 2.0 in the Corolla. Even the base Corolla gets it. It includes a number of different safety features. One of them is lane departure assist. It keeps you in your lane if you happen to drift out of it when you're on the freeway, for example. Another one is a collision mitigation system, which will actually bring the car to a complete stop if it thinks you're not going to stop in time. Let's say there's a car ahead of you. I actually did a video on that, and I'll put that in a link down below if you want to check out how that system works. And this also has radar cruise control. Here I've turned on dynamic radar cruise control, which follows the vehicle ahead of you and keeps a safe distance. You can see it on the dashboard. It actually is tracking the vehicle ahead of you, and if the vehicle slows down, like over here, the Corolla slows down as well to kind of match the pace and match the speed. It'll actually take you all the way down to a complete stop. It's also got a pre-collision system with pedestrian detection, and it also tracks the vehicle ahead of you, and if it sees there is a vehicle in your lane that is stopped and you're not reacting to it, it will actively apply the brakes and bring your car down to a complete stop. There's one major difference between the hatchback and the sedan, and that is this hatchback only comes with the 2-liter engine. You can also, of course, get the CVT, the continuously variable transmission, but compared to the manual, the CVT gets a little bit better gas mileage. Let's talk cargo space for a second. This has 17.8 cubic feet of cargo space when the rear seats are up. That is 4.7 more than the Corolla sedan, so that's quite a bit. This also has the enhanced cargo space option. It's free on the XSE package, and what it does is it lowers the floor, so there's no spare, but it gives you an additional 6 cubic feet, so now the total with the seats up is 23. This has a 60-40 folding split rear seat, so let's see how much space there is when I put them down. There actually is a lot more cargo space with the rear seats folded down, although this is still not a big hatchback. It's definitely at the smaller end of the competitors. With the enhanced cargo space option, you don't get a completely flat rear space. You get this little ridge here. It's about 4.5 inches high. There's certainly a lot more cargo space when you fold the rear seats down, but this is not class leading. This is definitely a smaller hatchback. Somebody asked me the very strange question if you could fit a bed in here and close the rear lift gate. Well, I looked up the size of a queen side bed, definitely not, but if you're looking at a twin, which is 60 by 37 inches without all the boxing around it, yeah, you could probably make it fit. But if you're looking to start up a moving company, this is probably not a great choice for you. In terms of cargo space with the rear seat up, the Corolla hatchback falls somewhere in the middle of its competitors. You put the rear seat down, however, and some of the other competitors probably have more space. Okay, here we go, 0 to 60. Let's see what this thing's got. Woo, little wheel spin. Okay, second gear, third gear. What do we get? 8.97. All right, let's try that again. A little more throttle. Okay, a little more aggressive shift. What do we get that time? 8.27. All right, so there is a little bit more. I'm willing to bet with a lot of practice, but this is probably not the car for it. Could probably get it down to maybe 8 or 8.1, something like that. Is it quicker than the CVT? Hard to say, but it's probably kind of similar. The ride quality is actually excellent in this car. So we're not running on the most sporty tires in the world. In fact, we're running on some all seasons. They're 225, 40/18s, and they're certainly not the grippiest tire in the world. You can hear them squealing, but the ride quality overall in here is really, really quite good. I'm amazed. I really like the damping that Toyota has tuned into this suspension. Like I say, this is a little too soft for these canyons and the way I'm driving, but like I say, the ride quality is really good, especially good on broken pavement when you're driving around the city. And actually, compared to the sedan that I drove a couple of weeks ago, I didn't like the tires as much in that. That had some impact harshness, but in here, it seems to be gone. I don't know if it's a different tire choice, but I like the suspension tuning in here, just the overall quality a little bit better. Very, very good ride. There's that old saying, which I know it's an old tired saying, but it is a lot of fun. It's a lot more fun often to drive a slow car quickly than to drive a fast car slowly. And so this is a slow car, 168 horsepower. Doesn't have a ton of grip because of these tires, but I'm having a lot of fun driving this. I'm kind of hooning it and I'm having a lot of fun. I don't think this is the way most people are going to be driving their Corolla hatchback, but you can if you want to. So like I say, it's not a real sports car, but it's still a lot of fun to drive, and I'm really looking forward to the Apex Edition, which is more of a sports car. This doesn't really have the power, you know, that a sports car would, and this also doesn't have the brakes. These brakes are on the smaller side. But for value for money, which I've mentioned a couple times, this is really pretty good. If you're in the market for a small, compact hatchback, there's not a whole lot of choice out there, and personally, I like this better than the 4-door sedan. I think it looks a lot better, and there's a lot more cargo space as well. Now, it's definitely not class-leading cargo space, but there's a whole lot of other things that I like about this car, and I think it's pretty good value for the money. If you are a beginner manual transmission driver, this is a great choice. The intelligent manual makes it really easy to rev match, and also the shifter is really easy to use. It's really easy to find the gears, and overall, it's just a pretty enjoyable, pretty good entry place to learn how to drive a manual transmission. The ride quality in this, I think, is top-notch. I like the interior. I think the fit and finish is really, really good on this car. It's certainly not posh, it's certainly not luxurious, but at this price point, I think it represents really good value. And what I'm excited about is this chassis. It's so stiff. So the Apex Edition is going to be coming next. I'm going to be able to review that. That is the more sporty variant. It has stiffer suspension. I'm going to get that in a couple of weeks, so look for that. My name is Eric, and thank you so much for watching.